Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
All right, we got a really cool story for you right now. Thanks for tuning in on the network, by demand, Sporting Journal Radio, or by watching this wherever you're watching this. Thank you very much. This is one of those stories. It's one of those really cool hunting stories. You don't really hear about something like this happening very often. It's one of those things that you wish would happen to you, but it's really cool when you get a chance to talk to somebody that it happened to in North Dakota. And I'm going to tell a couple of North Dakota moose stories here during this interview. But when I found out that there was moose in North Dakota, I was kind of blown away by it. Growing up in Minnesota and going to the Boundary Waters, going up the Gunflint Trail, when I think of moose, I think of either northeastern Minnesota in the woods in the Canadian Shield Country, or up in the Canadian wilderness, right? You don't think about a moose walking through a bean field, in the central prairies. But that's what you have in North Dakota. I mean, obviously you've got a few parts of North Dakota that have some trees and some hills, but for the most part, it's wild seeing a moose just out in the middle of the prairie, but they're there. And not only that, but North Dakota's got, North Dakota gets a bad rap sometimes, being kind of flat and windy and full of corn and beans. But if you go to different parts of North Dakota, it's really quite beautiful. The Badlands are amazing, and the Badlands are full of elk. So how about somebody that essentially drew lifetime tags, once-in-a-lifetime tags for moose and elk, and was successful both in the same year, and that's what our next guest did this year. Paul Hoggle joins us right now. Paul, how you doing?
Oh, good. Glad to be on.
I bet you are doing well. I mean, would you ever imagine that you'd shoot a moose and an elk in North Dakota in the same year?
Never dreamt it was going to happen. I never thought it would happen, I guess. Yep.
It's awesome. And they were both big animals, too. Both nice trophy animals. Let's just back up for 1 second and talk about the odds of drawing one of these tags. So have you been in North Dakota your whole life?
I have, yep.
All right. And you're in Fargo now, but you don't live in Fargo, right?
Yeah, I live in Carrington.
Carrington. Very cool. How many years have you been applying for these tags?
Oh, basically since I was 16, 18, somewhere in there, years old.
So, and you're...
And I'm 45.
Okay.
So 30 years, whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that's, I mean, and the moose tag was a landowner tag, right?
Correct.
And those are a little bit easier to come by?
They are. When I looked at the odds, I think it was about, as of last year or the year before, I think it was about a 15% chance of drawing where I live with the landowner. Otherwise, it was less than 1% on the moose. And I think elk, I drew that up in the northeast corner of the state, but that was a 0.4% chance of drawing that tag.
0.4%. And had you not been successful with the moose landowner tag this year, you'd be able to draw for it one more time?
One more time. I would, I'd have to send my tag back into the state. And then after that, I can apply again or keep applying until hopefully you draw again. And then and if I draw it again, that's the last time. So you get to draw.
Moose in North Dakota is kind of interesting. There's not a lot of them. There's a healthy population of them. But they haven't been, we don't need to get into this story, but they haven't been as affected as the moose in northern Minnesota. And I always thought that was interesting because as the moose in northern Minnesota, the population declined, everybody tried to point fingers at wolves or brainworm or climate change or whatever the case may be. Yet it's the same species of moose in North Dakota, and their population hasn't declined. And I've always said, well, what's the difference between Minnesota and North Dakota? And there's one glaring difference, and it's a giant predator with 4 legs and sharp teeth. But I remember, Paul, I lived in North Dakota, and I did radio in Fargo for about 12 years, and I hunted all across North Dakota. And I remember snow goose hunting one time, and I was driving around with a buddy of mine, and we were kind of scanning the horizon for flocks of snow geese or snow goose feeds, whatever. And I see, there's that's weird. This is a random cow standing out in the middle of a cut cornfield. It's kind of a weird place for a cow to be standing. It must have gotten out of a fence or something. And as we got closer, I realized it was a moose. and that was the first time I'd seen a moose in North Dakota. And it just seemed so out of place for me to see a moose in the middle of a cornfield, instead of, in the middle of a boreal forest. Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then driving back one time, I was coming into West Fargo on 94, and I looked on the south side of the interstate there, and there was a car pulled over. There's a frontage road, and there's just a random car parked next to a bean field. I'm like, and it wasn't a farmer's truck, so it was like a weird vehicle to be parked and just stopped along the interstate. And sure enough, there was a moose walking through the bean field, and they were stopping to take pictures or take a look at it or whatever. And it just like my head exploded seeing these moose in North Dakota like that after growing up in Minnesota. But it's a pretty cool deal. So obviously, around Carrington, you'll see moose around there occasionally. I've seen moose around Carrington before. Have you seen a lot of moose growing up?
Not up until probably, I'd say 5 years ago did I start seeing them right around Carrington. You'd always see a random one here or there. And it's not like we have a huge number, but there's moose traveling through our area all the time. I think last year I saw 5 bulls in one slough.
Oh,
Not
wow.
that they lived there, but they just wandered through. And I mean, none of them were real big, but it was 5 bulls, full moose in there. And so, yeah, we're getting some moose traveling through our area, and some I think are actually becoming slightly resident that kind of come back.
So, Dan, pull up a picture of this moose that he shot this year. This is a big animal. What did you know that this moose was around?
I had seen him last year, and if you see under his front forks or whatever you want to call them, those 2 tines on each side.
Yeah.
Kind of like drop tines, because that's unique. Most moose don't have that, or I've never seen it, I guess.
Sure.
Where they come out from underneath. And I had seen that bull. He was obviously smaller last year, but he was right on my stuff and right next to my stuff. And then I think he kind of migrated away a little bit this year, probably 5-6 miles. And I still had a cow and a calf on mine and a small bull. And he ended up wandering back to my ground.
So you'd seen this. You saw this moose last year.
Yes, correct. Yep. And he came back and the reason I very confident is because how many moose have them tines underneath like that? We call them drop tines. I don't know if that's the technical term for him or not, but that's he's pretty distinct that way, character-wise.
That's cool. Everybody wants to shoot big racked animals, but I love unique, racks, something that sets them apart a little bit, something different like that. That's pretty cool. Did you measure him? Like how big was he actually?
We scored him at gross. 159, 160, basically.
That's so cool. I think moose are just neat animals anyway, and to be able to shoot one in North Dakota like that on your own property. I know we talked off the air and you said it, it's not this big adventure hunting story, but to be able to shoot them on your own property. So did you have them on trail cameras or anything?
Not him, not this year. I had him last year, but not this year. Them other moose I talked about, they were coming in and hitting my bait station for deer, and I had a few pictures of the other moose, not that one specifically this year.
Sure. And then so one day, did you saw him on your property then and said, oh gosh, he's back?
Yeah. Yep. I knew there was that cow. I just seemed was acting a little different. So she must've been coming into heat or whatever. And I was just like, well, something bigger is going to show up, because it sounds from what I've heard and whatnot, they'll travel 10 miles in a night to find a hot cow.
Sure.
And I'm pretty confident that was the situation on this one.
And then, so you got him butchered up. What did you do? Steaks, burger? What'd you do with them?
I did. Yep. Steaks, roast, burger. And that is one thing I'll say I'm a little picky on, like, deer meat. I love deer meat, deer sausage, deer jerky, all that, but I'm not a real wild game guy. Just to eat a roast out of a deer, say. I will, but it's not my favorite. that moose is so close to beef. It's amazing. I was truly amazed at how good that is.
Yeah, moose is delicious. And if you're obviously a deer hunter, and dragging a deer out can be pretty easy, obviously. What did you have to do with the moose? You could probably drive right up to it, I suppose, if it was in one of your fields.
Yep, it was in my cornfield, and yeah, wasn't too hard. Just brought the skid steer out and picked it up and put it on a trailer. So that's why I say this hunt wasn't super exciting and had to quarter them up and pack them out 10 miles or anything, but still exciting in its own right.
Oh, absolutely, man. And it's a moose and all that. See, I get so excited about the meat now. I eat a lot of deer. I like to eat it. So wild game, we eat it every day here. And obviously a big moose would be pretty special, and I'd probably put it up on the wall for sure. But I'd be so excited about that meat. Do you know about how much meat you got out of it?
So I took it into the locker plant in town, and it was 472 pounds of straight meat I got back. And that wasn't blended with anything. That was just straight moose meat. Man,
that's awesome. All right, I'll be over for moose burgers later.
Absolutely.
All right. Paul, congratulations on the moose. I want to talk about the elk. If you're listening to this on the radio, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and talk elk here with Paul Hoggle, who shot a moose and an elk in North Dakota this year. But we can keep – you want a break? Or
don't matter.
Or should we just keep rolling?
Just keep rolling.
All right. So now we want to talk about your elk. How many years have you been applying for an elk license? Same deal?
Same scenario. Yep.
I have always wanted to try to shoot a North Dakota elk, but and now that I live in Minnesota, I can't. What is it? One of them, non-residents can only apply for a sheep tag, I think, and there's only a couple of sheep tags, which I didn't even think non-residents could apply for a sheep tag, but I was looking at some of the regs here on the ND Game and Fish website, and I haven't lived over in North Dakota now for about 10 years, so things may have changed, but there is a game warden raffle tag. Do you know anything about that, Paul? That you can get for, I can't remember if it's for elk or moose. I can't remember.
Oh, I'm not sure. I think they raffle a bighorn. I don't know about elk and moose, I guess.
Well, I'd have to look into it. But essentially, you got to be resident for these lifetime tags, which I'm totally cool with, just because the opportunity is so limited and just quite the opportunity. So, obviously, you see elk occasionally here on the eastern side of North Dakota, but primarily you got to go out west for them. I'm assuming you went out west for this hunt?
No, I was actually in the northeast corner.
Oh, you were?
Interesting. The state. Yep.
That's even better. So is that up? I'm up by Pembina, maybe. Is that?
Yep. The Pembina Gorge through that area.
Now, Are those some of those same elk that go into Minnesota, like that? What's that herd that's up there in the northeast corner? The Kitson herd, maybe.
I guess I haven't heard that name. I'm not sure, but they got to be the same in the southern Canada one, southern Manitoba. I would assume it's all the same herd.
Yeah, because Minnesota's got the Grigla animals, and then it's like I haven't looked into it for a while and I can't remember, but there's like 3 of them and they're all kind of small, except the biggest one comes in from Manitoba and comes down, and they kind of go back and forth across the border, which has got to be right up there by. I think they're by Halleck, so it's got to be just across the border from Pembina there. But did you know that there was elk up there, or what made you go up that direction? Is that where you drew a tag for that zone?
Yeah, that's where I drew the tag, and that's where I've been applying. I've heard there's decent elk up there, and access. There's a fair amount of state land up there, so, and I heard there's decent numbers now, so that's why I applied up there.
All right. And how much scouting went into that hunt?
Not a lot before. So up there, take a step back, like Western North Dakota, you can use a rifle starting September 3rd. I think it opened this year. Up there, you have to use a bow for the month of September.
Okay.
And so I was up twice before season, and then just trying to get the lay of the land. And I didn't have much private land to go on, so I was going to be hunting a lot of state ground. And so just wanted to get a feel for it. Never really put eyes on an elk while I was up there. Just, it was more figuring out roads, how to access some of this stuff and that sort of thing. And then started hunting in September with the bow up there.
Did you shoot it with a bow?
Nope, I shot it with the rifle. I ended up taking it with the rifle last week.
Okay. Oh, you just shot it. All right.
Yep.
Look at that.
But I hunted 26 days for this elk.
Wow. Yeah, that's putting some time in.
I put some time in, a couple hours from home, and I paid my dues somewhat on this one. It was awesome shooting that elk, last week with the rifle, but the funnest part of the hunt was probably with the bow during the rut. That is an experience I will never forget.
Were they chasing cows around and bugling, fighting?
Just bugling and getting them in close. I hunted almost all state land, and I bet I was within 60, 70 yards of 12 bulls, 15 bulls throughout many, several trips, probably 16, 17 days up there at that point in the month of September. And they're just ripping off, bugling and all, raking trees. And yeah, it was intense.
That's awesome. So tell me when you first laid eyes on this elk that you shot.
So we were sitting just waiting for him to come out to feed, basically. And I had a buddy with me, and we were just waiting. We knew there was elk in that area, waiting for him to come out, because now with the snow and crunchiness, at this time of year, they got to feed. The rut's over. You don't really know. You just are looking for tracks and hoping they come out to feed. So we knew there was tracks and there was elk around there. And I had sat out there earlier that morning, and I'd passed on he was a 6x6, but he's broke off. So I held out. So all day I'm 26 days into this hunt, and I'm like, man, did I screw up? I probably should have shot that one, because it was a 300 class bull. And I didn't shoot. So anyways, my buddy came out and sat then the afternoon with me. And this cows started filtering out, and that bull I passed in the morning came out. And then I think we ended up with 40 elk in front of us there by about 5 o'clock. And then the one I got ended up coming out, and he must have been there. I think he was just sitting back in the trees watching the herd come out first. And then once they were all feeding and grazing, then he decided to come trotting across into the open.
He was letting them make sure it was safe for him.
That's what it was. That's what I think too. Yep, exactly. And he came running across and gave me a broadside shot and put him down.
No, that's awesome. So how did you have to quarter him to get him out, or how'd you pack him out, or how'd that process go?
No, I was lucky enough to get on a cattle guy's land up there, and it was pretty flat land where we were. So I wasn't in deep coulees. This was more flatland stuff. And we were able to drive up to it, and we drug him out, and then we gutted him, and then the rancher, he brought his front end loader and loaded them up for me.
Okay. So, I hope you're buying Powerball tickets by the handful right now, because not only did you shoot a North Dakota elk and moose in the same year, but you were able to drive to each of them, load them up, drive them out.
I heard the old saying about a horseshoe, golden horseshoe. Yeah, my buddies are like, we're just going to follow you around till you lose it. So.
Man, that's incredible. I was hunting out in the Badlands one year. I was bow hunting out there, and me and a buddy we were up next to some public land, but we had like 400 acres of private land that we were going to hunt, and we were just jacked about it. We had gone out there and scouted and put up trail cameras, and then we came back out for the hunting season, and I think we were on our way out there. We were driving out there in 94, and my buddy calls me up that lives out there that got us on the property. He goes, yeah, so we just drew once in a lifetime elk tags for that property, and there's 4 big bulls on it. So you guys can come stay out here, but you're going to have to find somewhere else to hunt. So we were able to stay. We were staying on the property, and one morning we were driving out to leave, and as we got to the end of the driveway, there were 2 bull elk standing right on the driveway. Which, Dan, I don't know if you can find it, but I got a picture of these 2 elk standing on the driveway in the sunrise, and we were like 30 yards away from them. It was
wow.
It was a pretty wild experience. That's the closest to wild elk that I guess I've been. Haven't tried hunting them yet, but
yeah, they're an amazing animal without a doubt.
So what did that one score at then?
We got him roughed at gross 384.
Oh man. I think some people would be shocked to realize just not only do we have elk in North Dakota / Minnesota, but some big elk as well.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. There is. And out west, well, wherever they have units, there is a chance at a trophy of a lifetime, a world-class animal.
How much meat did you get off of him?
Didn't get that weighed. So I'm not sure, but my freezers are full.
Freezers.
Yeah. Freezers.
Yeah. Gosh, that's awesome. So much meat off of both of those big animals, and the fact that you got them both. So, I mean, do you just hang it up at this point? You retire? I mean, how do you top this?
As far as elk, I'm like, I think you could shoot a bigger moose, if you go to the Yukon or something or whatever. But as far as the elk, that's a tough one to beat. I don't know if I'll go elk hunting anymore. I'll focus on mule deer and whitetails again. So,
have you ever gone out west, Montana, Colorado, or anything for elk?
Montana, I shot a bull back in 2009 in the Missouri River breaks up there.
Nice. Okay.
And that's the only time I've ever elk hunted prior to this year.
Gosh, shoots them both and can drive. I still can't believe you drew tags same year in North Dakota, shot them both, and drove right up to both of them. That's just a great story.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, that's awesome. All right. Well, what about any other animals other than deer on the horizon for you? Any trips planned or anything?
No, my next focus is a mule deer. I've never shot a North Dakota mule deer. Yep, I've shot them in eastern Montana, but never North Dakota.
I got lucky one time. In fact, it was 10 years ago this week. It came up on my Facebook memories. I shot a muley with my bow out in the Badlands, and I was hunting with a buddy of mine. And we didn't get to drive up to the deer though, Paul. We had to haul it out, and we had to haul it across the Little Missouri River. And my buddy had an old golf cart, like the manual ones that you just pull by hand that you'd strap your golf bag into. He had converted that into a big game carrier. So I got a picture. Yeah, well, there's the picture right there, Dan. Yeah, I got a picture of us standing on the Little Missouri River with my muley in a golf cart.
Neat.
And that, 10 years ago this week. There it is. All right.
Nice.
Well, congratulations again on the success. Just an unbelievable story. Paul Hoggle, thanks for the time today on the show.
All right. Thank you, Brett.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.
Looking for winter adventure? Might as well pick a place with over 1,000 lakes. Ottertail County, Minnesota is in the middle of everywhere, offers a simpler pace, and has something for everyone. Find your inner otter at ottertaillakescountry.com.